Pause here, my beloved child. Pause, and listen as if you are standing in a quiet hallway just before a door clicks open. Because somewhere, right now, your name is forming in someone else's mouth. Not as a casual sound. Not as a memory they can shrug off. As a message. And it isn't floating in the clouds like a wish. It is taking shape in the ordinary world, in the heat of a palm, in the blue glow of a phone screen, in the sudden tightening of a throat when a familiar song comes on. They have been trying to be practical, trying to be fine, trying to live like their feelings are a coat they can hang on a chair and forget. But that's not what changed everything. Today, something happened that made their hands go cold, and for the first time in a long time, fear stopped wearing the mask of logic. It happened in public, where they least expected to be undone. They were standing in a grocery aisle under harsh white lights, the kind that make everyone look a little tired. Their basket had the usual things, a carton of eggs, coffee, something they'd pretend was a healthy choice. The store speakers were playing a song no one listens to on purpose. Carts squeaked. A child cried somewhere near the cereal. And then the trigger arrived, small, sharp, impossible to ignore. A woman in a denim jacket reached for a stack of cardboard boxes near the customer service desk. The kind printed with bold black letters, small, kitchen, books. Moving boxes. Right behind her, an employee rolled out a flatbed with more boxes, and a label on top flashed past like a subtitle you weren't supposed to read. Your name. Not your full name, my child, but enough of it. Enough to make their chest react before their mind could deny it. Enough to make the air feel suddenly thinner. They froze between the pasta and the canned tomatoes like their feet had forgotten the next instruction. You good? A coworker's voice said. Because of course someone from work had chosen that exact moment to appear, pushing a cart with office snacks and a too bright smile. They swallowed hard. Yeah. Just forgot something. But that wasn't the truth, was it? The truth was, they remembered something. They remembered you. They remembered the way your presence used to feel like a lamp turning on in a room they didn't realize was dim. And today, under fluorescent lights and random Thursday noise, that memory came back with teeth. There is a detail you haven't considered, my beloved child. When someone is in love with you, they don't only miss your body. They miss who they become when you are near. And the terrifying part is not wanting you. The terrifying part is realizing you could change them. They pretended to browse, lifting a jar, setting it down, watching their own hands shake slightly as if the nerves were a confession. They told themselves a story they've told themselves before: it's too late. It's complicated. You wouldn't want to hear from me. Better to leave you in peace. Better to be respectful. Yet somewhere under that, another truth rose, quiet but relentless. They weren't being respectful. They were hiding. And fear, my child, has a way of dressing itself in nice manners so it can keep its seat at the table. They left the store without buying half of what they came for. Outside, the sky looked like it couldn't decide whether to rain. The parking lot smelled like warm asphalt and spilled soda. They sat in their car and stared at the steering wheel as if it could tell them what to do next. Then something happened that made their mouth go dry. Their phone buzzed, not from you, not from anyone important, just a calendar notification. A meeting reminder. A life reminder. And under that, a thought they could no longer outrun: what if I waited too long? Not the dramatic, movie kind of too long. The real kind. The kind where one day you look up and realize the person you love has rearranged their life without you in it, not to punish you, but to survive you. They drove home with the radio off, as if even music would be too loud for the truth trying to speak. My beloved child, the subtle shift in your connection has already happened. You might have felt it as a strange quiet. A pause where there used to be movement. A heaviness in your chest that didn't have a clear name. It wasn't because love died. It was because something got pulled too tight. They have been holding back, not because they don't feel it, but because feeling it made them see the cost of their own honesty. It made them see the places they would have to grow. It made them realize you aren't the kind of love they can sample with a spoon and put back in the jar. You require presence. Consistency. A spine. And they weren't sure they had one. Not this time. At home, night arrived like it always does, uninvited, inevitable. Their apartment was dim, curtains half-drawn, a single lamp throwing a tired circle of light onto the carpet. The air smelled faintly like detergent and leftover takeout. They tossed their keys into a bowl and stood there for a long minute, still wearing their shoes, as if removing them would admit they were staying in this moment. Their phone lit up again, bright against the darkness. The glow painted their face in a cold color. They sat on the edge of the bed and unlocked it. And the message began to form. But not the kind you think. Not a neat paragraph. Not a clean confession. First, it was just a tremor in their thumb hovering over your name. They didn't open the chat right away. They couldn't. It felt like touching a bruise. Like stepping onto a frozen lake, not sure if it would hold. Because they already knew what they would find there. Silence. The place where they left you hanging. They told themselves, again, that they were protecting you from confusion. That they were giving you space. That they were being mature. Yet the memory of your face, the way your eyes looked the last time the conversation turned serious, cut through those excuses like a thin wire. You didn't look angry then. You looked tired. And maybe, my child, that is the most dangerous expression of all, when someone stops fighting for clarity and starts preparing to live without it. But that's not what broke them open. It was the empathy. Because tonight, alone in the dim room, they finally replayed what their silence did to you, not what they intended it to mean. Intention is a private language. Impact is the world. They remembered you checking your phone and putting it down. They remembered you trying not to double text because you didn't want to be that person. They remembered you rewriting your own needs into smaller words so you wouldn't scare them away. And in that replay, they saw the truth they've been dodging. They didn't just disappear from a chat. They disappeared from your nervous system. A new metaphor comes for you here, my beloved child. their avoidance was like leaving a candle burning near a curtain. Nothing looks wrong at first, but the air changes. Slowly. Quietly. Until one day you smell smoke and realize you've been living in danger without calling it that. They ran a hand over their face, and the sound of their own breathing felt too loud. Soft breath, their throat tightened. Then the turning point question returned, sharper than before: what if I waited too long? And with that question came a memory, small, specific, impossible to argue with. It wasn't a grand romantic scene. It wasn't fireworks or a dramatic kiss. It was a moment that could have been overlooked by anyone not paying attention. A rainy afternoon months ago. You had been standing near a window, looking outside at people hurrying under umbrellas. You were holding a paper cup of tea with both hands like it was something precious, not because of the drink, but because your hands were cold and you didn't want to admit it. They were talking, about schedules, about plans, about the usual safe topics that don't require anyone to risk their heart. And you interrupted them gently. Not with anger. With truth. You said you were tired of half-answers. You said you didn't want promises, you wanted clarity. You said you could handle no better than you could handle limbo. Your voice didn't shake, my child. But your fingers did, just slightly, around that cup. And in that tiny tremor, they saw your heart the way you don't show it to everyone. Brave, exhausted, still open. That was the moment they realized they loved you. Not because you were perfect. Because you were real. And it terrified them. Because real love is not entertainment. It is a mirror. It asks, who are you when it counts? They went quiet that day. You probably noticed. You probably tried to make it easier for them, even then, softening the air, shifting the topic, rescuing them from their own fear. And they let you. That was the beginning of the distance. But that's not the whole story. Tonight, as they sat in the dark with your name like a weight on their screen, an external pressure arrived. The kind that forces movement even in people who are trained to freeze. It came in the form of a rumor. A careless sentence. A piece of information dropped like a match in dry grass. Earlier in the grocery store parking lot, before they drove away, their coworker had said something else, almost as an afterthought, chewing on a piece of gum like it was no big deal. Hey, did you hear? You know your friend, well, that person you used to talk about? I think they're moving. New job or something. Moving. My beloved child, distance is not always measured in miles. Sometimes it's measured in the moment someone stops expecting you. But miles will do it too. And now, the stakes were no longer emotional in some vague future. They were real. Calendar real. Box real. 2 weeks until they're gone real. Then something happened that made their stomach drop. They opened a group story, one they barely watched, one they only clicked out of restless habit. And there you were, not centered, not posing, just in the background of someone else's short video, laughing softly in a room full of people, holding a marker near a stack of those same moving boxes. Not looking broken. Not looking like you were waiting. Calm. And beside you, a steady presence, someone standing close enough to hand you tape without asking. Someone who didn't look like they were guessing where they stood. Their jealousy wasn't loud. It was surgical. It cut precisely where their pride used to sit. They put the phone down like it burned. And then they broke, privately, quietly, the way people break when they've been holding a posture for too long. I protected myself, they whispered into the empty room, as if the walls could forgive them. They thought they were being cautious. They thought they were being smart. But the truth was simpler, they were afraid you would matter more than their control. My child, you have to understand, some people fear love not because they don't want it, but because they have never been taught how to hold it without crushing it. Still, fear does not excuse impact. And tonight, they finally admitted that. Another microhook arrives here, gentle but firm, but the next question is the one that changes everything. Who did their silence serve? Not you. It served the version of them that didn't want to risk rejection, accountability, or the hard work of showing up. They stood up and paced. The apartment was quiet except for the refrigerator humming like a bored witness. Their feet moved across the floor without a plan, as if their body was trying to walk out of the old story. And then, as if the universe enjoys timing, their friend called. Not a mystical call. A real one. The kind you almost ignore because you don't want anyone to hear the crack in your voice. They answered anyway. "What's wrong with you?" the friend said. "You sound like you're underwater." They tried to laugh. It didn't land. "I think they're leaving," they said. A pause on the line. Then the friend's voice dropped, sharper. "Do you love them?" Silence. The kind that tells the truth before words do. Then, quietly, finally, they said it. Yes. One syllable. A door opening. And with that confession, their friend didn't celebrate. Didn't tease. Didn't romanticize it. They went straight for the wound. "Then stop protecting your pride like it's a child," the friend said. "It's not. It's a thief." That line hit them like cold water. Because it was true. They had been acting like their pride was safety, when really it was just a locked room. My beloved child, here is the thesis you need to hear, not as a fantasy, but as a standard. They needed honesty, not perfection. Not a flawless speech. Not a dramatic gesture. Not a sudden personality transplant. Honesty. Accountability. Consistency. And the friend, as if reading their thoughts, added one more sentence, softer now, but heavier. "You can't keep someone warm with explanations." That was it. That was the sentence that made them stop pacing. Because you have never been asking for a masterpiece. You have been asking for a person. Then something happened that made their throat ache. They imagined you answering if they reached out now. Not the sweet version. The real version. They heard your imagined voice like it was right there in the room. Why now? And beneath that, another imagined line, one you might never say out loud, but your eyes would. "You hurt me." And then the third, the one that matters most, the one that draws a boundary like a clean line in sand. Don't say it if you can't live it. They sat back down on the bed, phone in hand, your chat now unavoidable. My child, this is where the story becomes digital, but the stakes remain spiritual. They tapped your name. Your profile picture loaded. For a moment, they exhaled, relieved you hadn't vanished completely. Then they scrolled. Old messages rose like ghosts with timestamps. A meme you sent that made them laugh. A voice note from you that they played too many times and never admitted. Their own short replies, practical, guarded, busy, sorry, later. And then they found it. The single line from you that stopped them like a hand on the chest. I can't keep guessing where I stand. That was it. No rage. No insult. Just a boundary spoken in plain language. They stared at it until their eyes blurred. Because a boundary, my beloved child, is not a wall meant to punish. It is a fence built to protect what is still alive inside you. And they had treated it like a threat. There is a detail you haven't considered. They didn't just fear losing you. They feared being seen as the person who lost you. So they stalled. They delayed. They waited for courage to arrive like a package. But courage does not arrive. It is built. One trembling action at a time. They pressed into the text box. A cursor blinked. Like a heartbeat. And then the typing began. Draft 1, short, safe, useless. Hey. How have you been? They stared at it and felt disgust rise in their throat. Too small. Too late. Like knocking on a cathedral door with a toothpick. Delete. Draft 2, medium, apologetic, still slippery. I've been thinking about you. I'm sorry I went quiet. Life got complicated. Their jaw tightened. Complicated. The favorite costume of people who don't want to name their choices. Delete. Draft 3, long, emotional, almost persuasive. I don't even know where to start. I've missed you more than I admitted. I was scared, and I handled it badly. I kept telling myself I was giving you space, but I was really avoiding the truth. I don't want to lose you. Their finger hovered over send, and their body reacted, heat in the face, heart punching against ribs, a sick feeling like stepping too close to the edge of a roof. Then they imagined you reading it and feeling pressured. Like your boundary was being negotiated. They couldn't do that to you. Delete. Draft 4, risky, honest, accountable. It started with an admission that didn't dress itself up. No excuses. They stopped. Their eyes stung. Because if they said that, they would have to mean it. They typed again. Their thumb trembled. They wrote your name. They erased it. They wrote it again. Then they paused, not because they didn't know what to say, but because they knew exactly what to say, and it would cost them their last comfortable lie. But that's not what changed everything. A notification slid across the top of the screen like a blade. A mutual acquaintance posted, "Going away drinks next Friday." So proud of you. Going away. Confirmed. Not a rumor. Not a maybe. My beloved child, here comes the restrained twist, the human kind, not the dramatic kind. They tapped your contact details, needing to feel like they still had access, like the door was still there. And the phone showed something small, devastating, and modern. Invite to chat. Your number wasn't saved the same way anymore. Or you had changed it. Or you had restricted what they could see. The effect was the same, the old path back to you had been altered. Not to punish them. To protect you. They sat there, stunned, realizing that while they were debating whether to be brave, you were building a life that didn't require their bravery at all. That is what time does, my child. It doesn't scream. It rearranges. Another metaphor for you, new and specific. Their hesitation was like watching a train schedule and assuming the train will wait because you want it to. The station doesn't hate you. The conductor isn't angry. The train just leaves. They felt panic rise, real panic, the kind that turns your fingertips cold. They searched their call history, their old screenshots, any place your number might still exist. They found an old thread, an old contact card, a version of you still preserved in data. And for a second, hope flickered. Not a promise. A chance. Then the fear came back, whispering, what if you don't want this? What if you're done? What if they reach out and you say nothing? They almost put the phone down. Almost. But their friend's words returned like a hand on their back. You can't keep someone warm with explanations. They opened the chat again, this time through the old number. It loaded. The cursor blinked again. And they began the accountable message, the one that doesn't manipulate, doesn't beg, doesn't try to buy your forgiveness with pretty language. They wrote, I understand if you don't want to respond. Their chest tightened, because that sentence meant they were finally respecting your agency, not using it as an excuse to stay silent. They added, I disappeared when you deserved clarity. Their eyes closed briefly, like they were taking a punch. They continued, I've been in love with you, and I acted like my fear mattered more than your peace. There it was. The confession. Not wrapped in fantasy. Not demanding anything back. Just truth placed on the table like a glass of water. Words aren't enough, my child. They know that. So they wrote the next line carefully, as if each word had to pass a test. I'm not asking you to trust me because I'm saying this. I'm asking for the chance to show you, with consistency, if you choose to allow it. They stopped typing. Their thumb hovered. And now, the universe measured time. 30 seconds. They stared at the screen, reading it again, searching for any hidden selfishness. 2 minutes. Their mind raced, trying to invent outcomes. Your anger, your silence, your calm, thank you but no. 10 minutes. Their phone screen dimmed and brightened again as they tapped it, refusing to let it sleep, as if sleep would erase the courage. A single bead of sweat rolled down their side. Their heart kept a fast rhythm like it was running even while their body sat still. Then they did something else. They pressed call. Not to trap you. Not to demand an answer. Just to let the ring carry their willingness. It rang once. Twice. They held their breath. Then it went to voicemail. And the quiet afterward was louder than the ringing. They didn't hang up right away. They listened to the void like it might speak. A missed call notification appeared. And that's when the boundaries arrive, my beloved child, cleanly, clearly, wholly. Listen closely, you do not chase. You do not abandon yourself to prove you are lovable. Your boundaries are not cruelty. They are your nervous system finally learning the shape of safety. You can listen without surrendering. You can receive a message without reopening a door that cost you too much to close. If they come with words but no change, you can stay still. Stillness is not weakness. Stillness is discernment. And if they come with change, slow, consistent, accountable, you are allowed to consider. Not because you owe them, but because you choose. Choice is sacred. They know they have no right to demand access to you. They only have the responsibility to offer truth without grabbing your wrist. So they did the only thing left, they recorded a voice note. They pressed the microphone icon. The timer started. 0:01, their lips parted, and for a second nothing came out. Just breath and the soft sound of the room. 0:08, they began, and their voice cracked. They stopped the recording. Deleted it. They tried again. 0:03. I don't want to interrupt your life, they said, steadier, but I can't live with what I didn't say. They stopped. Deleted it. They tried a third time, hands shaking. 0:01, my child, no, not that. That wasn't their language. That was mine. They swallowed, grounding themselves. They tried again, and this time, they spoke your name, soft, like placing something fragile down. 0:06, I love you, they said. And I've been a coward about it. They stopped, breath ragged, and the urge to send it rose like a wave, because sending would mean no longer controlling the outcome. But control has been their cage. Another microhook, my beloved child, then something happened that made them finally choose action over comfort. Their friend texted them, 3 words, no softness. Send it now. And as if the world wanted to seal the moment, the going away post refreshed again with details, a date, a location, a countdown. Next Friday. A ticking clock, disguised as a social plan. They looked down at the message they had typed, the accountable one. They looked at the unsent voice note. They looked at the missed call. And they understood something that will matter to you too. Love that hides is not love that protects. It is love that postpones responsibility. They returned to the text, making it even cleaner, even more respectful. They removed any sentence that sounded like pressure. They removed anything that sounded like, after all I've done, because they hadn't done enough. They left only what was true. Then they hovered over send. Their thumb stayed suspended like a bridge that hadn't decided to become land. 1 minute passed. 2. They watched the screen so hard their eyes ached. And then, because life loves suspense, they saw it. Under the last message in the thread, the smallest possible shift, typing, not from them. From you. Or from the system. Or from a ghost of possibility. Their breath stopped. They didn't move. They didn't even blink. The dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. And in that flicker, their entire body became a listening instrument, skin alive, spine rigid, heart begging for an outcome it did not deserve. My beloved child, do not mistake this moment for a promise. It is not a guarantee of reunion. It is the edge of a decision, yours, theirs, both. The dots vanished. A new silence took its place. And they realized something that made them almost laugh and almost cry at the same time. Even now, even at the cliff's edge, they don't get to control your response. They only get to choose who they are. They looked at the send button again. They pressed their thumb down halfway, then stopped, as if even the pressure of skin against glass could summon consequences. They whispered, barely audible, as if the room itself needed to hear accountability spoken out loud, I was afraid. And then, softer, the sentence that doesn't ask for forgiveness but admits the debt, I'm sorry. They lifted their thumb. Hovered again. Your name sat at the top of the screen like a star they weren't sure they were allowed to look at. Their friend called again, but they didn't answer. Not now. Not when the next breath could change the shape of their life. The apartment was utterly still. Outside, a car passed, tires hissing on damp pavement. Somewhere a neighbor's TV laughed at a joke no one in this room could hear. And you, my child, wherever you are, may be feeling something you can't explain. A sudden heaviness. A strange calm. A tiny alertness in your chest, like your heart sat up in bed. Because energy moves before language does. But remember your boundaries. Remember your worth. Remember that love must arrive with actions that match its claims. Now, watch. Their thumb finally descended. Not yet pressing. Just close enough that the screen reflected their fingertip like a second moon. They didn't send the long message. They didn't send the voice note either. They did something else. Something quieter, more precise, more honest than all the drafts. They began typing a new message from scratch, the kind that doesn't decorate itself, the kind that risks being misunderstood because it refuses to perform. And the first sentence they typed was not what anyone would expect.